So now we can move on to show and tell. Doug, did you have submissions for show and tell for tonight?
So for show and tell tonight. So anybody who's got a show and tell. I see, Alan, you've got your hand raised.
Okay, that is a small box that I turned out of spalted maple, and it measures about 2 inches in diameter and about 3 inches high. First little box I've done, and I, on the whole, was pleased with how it came out. I did the jam chuck to do the lid. If I had it to do over again, I probably would have tried to allow myself a little bit more room on the lid. I'm not completely happy with the knob, but I did like the figurine. Spalted silver maple is what that is.
Is that a crack down through it, Alan, or is that just color?
That's the color of the grain, yes.
Okay.
Very nice.
You got another piece?
That's all for show and tell, or for show and tell. I've got something on the challenge.
Well, why don't you go to it while you're there?
Okay, I can do that. All right, let's try, can I do this slideshow? Okay. There we go. My inside out turning measures approximately 2 inches in diameter and about 4.5 inches high. And the little Christmas tree on the inside is about 1 inch high.
How did you find the inside out turning? Was that hard, easy, fun?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I think I'm not completely happy with that shape. It looks almost too boxy for me. But yeah, I'm interested in trying another one.
That was using 4 pieces, correct, Alan?
Correct, yes.
Alan, did you say, is that cherry on the outside?
That is cherry, right.
Pretty piece.
And what did you use to secure them together? Did you use the paper and glue technique, or to tape them?
Taped them, and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, as best as I remember, I only used duct tape.
Oh, wow. Nice.
The one end I was able to hold in the chuck, and the other end I duct taped it.
Duct tape does everything.
Nice piece.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Okay, I'm done.
For what it's
And
worth,
also-
Alan, I tried pretty much any place I could think of to get fiberglass tape. You know, that's what
Okay,
on YouTube videos and stuff, they really show, they stress on the fiberglass tape, and I wound up buying it on Amazon. So now it'll probably be until I make my next inside out turning before I use another inch of fiberglass tape. But in the meantime, for I think it was $7 or so on Amazon, you can buy 1/2 inch or 1 inch or 2 inch fiberglass tape.
I think I've got some fiberglass tape that I used on drywall. I rolled that laying around somewhere. I'm not sure how that would work.
Not the same thing. That won't have enough stick to it.
Well, no, thinking about putting a piece of duct tape over top of it, it would give added strength, is what I was thinking.
You can also use a cone center on the other end,
Right.
on your tailstock end to hold it in place. Lots of
As a
people
matter-
also make square chucks. So make a
Yeah.
round chuck and carve a square void out to set the
Right.
ends in, so you don't have to deal with tape at all.
The chuck I used is the one that came with my Harbor Freight, and it has just a little bit of a nub sticking out of it, but it's almost like a cup center. So I did use that then in addition to the duct tape.
It's a nice looking piece, Alan.
I say if there's no chance that it will fly apart, where's the fun?
As long as you're standing out of the way.
Yeah, I see Angelo next. You ready to go, Angelo?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I don't have any photos, but I have the pieces if you want to see them.
I'm going to spotlight you. Hold them up beside your face.
Okay, these are, to paraphrase Max Fury, these are two rejects from the Magic Factory. These were supposed to be shell balls, so the inside is spherical and the outside is now a box. This is marble wood with a piece of leftover ebony ring on the bottom. This is curly maple, leftover ring of ebony on the bottom.
What happened to them that made them rejects from the Magic Box Factory?
I'm not going to turn as much magic as I used to, so the marble wood, this one, I made one magic prop out of it, and it's too hard to get a good press fit to hold the shell in place. So I wasn't going to make another one, so I turned it into a box. I have a piece of Madeira. This is, I collected this in the Bahamas in the late 90s. Madeira is also known as Cuban mahogany. So this is a piece of that. I met one woodturner in the Bahamas, and I traded him some tools, extra tools that I had for boxes of wood, and I would mail them home to myself from the Bahamas. But you can't do that anymore. Today I turned a little flat top box, piece of leftover ebony, piece of green maple burl, dyed and stabilized.
Very pretty. Huh? Now that's a vacuum fit, it looked like.
Well, I don't know about a vacuum fit, but it's not too tight.
Angelo, I'm almost embarrassed to ask this because we've seen your work in the past, but on those rings, the ebony
Yeah.
rings, the other two,
Yeah.
how do you talk about the process to making those rings? to fit? How do you do that? Because they're so delicate and they're ebony.
How do I do that? Good question. Most of these rings start out as ebony discs left over from a previous turning, usually magic. It's usually the piece of wood that's stuck in the chuck. After I pot off the piece that I keep for the major turning, I'll flatten the face and true up the corner. And if I want a ring from it, I'll part a ring from it while it's in the chuck. You have to be careful that you don't jam your parting tool into the chuck, but other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
So a 4-jaw chuck will give you enough strength, but not so much that would crack that thin wall.
Yeah, it's not all that thin. It's
1/8 inch thick, maybe?
about 1/8 by 1/8 of an inch. This one is about 1/4 by 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 by 1/4. So they're pretty simple to make.
Great stuff.
Very cool.
Is that it for you? Any more questions for Angelo?
So for me,
Ron.
Yeah. I've done a number of inside out turnings. Sorry, I missed the first part of the meeting. I was out, but so I don't know what, I guess if you're showing your inside out, this is what I just did for the challenge. I used to make ornaments, and of course they had a solid end like so, and then one on the opposite end. Then I got to where I started taking the top off and making the opening so you can see inside. And on the first turning, I did that and dyed it red, and then turned them around and then turned the top off, round over the ends, and then dyed the green on the outside. you were talking about holding them. The way I hold a lot of these is with double-sided tape. Put the double-sided tape on the four ends, both ends of the pieces on the four pieces. And if you squeeze them in a clamp or a vise for 30 seconds or a minute, it really increases the hold of the double stick tape. And then I use a cup center on the tail end and a spur drive on the base end with a spring-loaded pin. So that the pin centers you up, and then when you bring it in, the pin backs out and doesn't go in between the joint and spread the pieces apart. Then your spurs take a hold. And the first thing I do then is turn the tenon on there so that I can grip it in the chuck. So I have this end in the chuck and this end in a cup center with double stick tape. And I do sometimes wrap the nylon cord tape around it as well, around the end. But generally that holds pretty well. And then a lot of times I will turn them around and use a double stick tape again, rather than gluing them together and solid, because I might think, well, I think I want to turn that first turning a little bit more. So I'll turn them back around and do that again. And then I turn around and glue them together and finish them up. But this is one of the latest ones I did. This is one I did maybe a year ago. Again, taking the ends off and opening it up. I left it where the glue joint is here in where my fingers are. That part of it is glued together. The rest is all opened up. And it makes kind of an interesting.
Hold it still. Stop waving it around.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It makes an interesting piece when you have both ends open.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron,
Yeah.
your double face tape, I've kind of been looking into that. I've seen a number of presentations using that. And of course you can't, generally they say don't use carpet tape and don't use obviously foam double face tape. What kind do you use? Do you know offhand?
No, but I have two different rolls that I bought from woodworking supply stores.
Okay.
And yeah, many times I've heard that said too. The carpet tape just does not have the tack and the stickiness that these do.
This is an industrial tape that's made for these kind of purposes, and the wood turning suppliers all sell it.
Yeah.
All right, that's where I was going to go with it. I didn't know if it was something you could pick up.
Yeah, but one of the key things, as I said, you put them together and you squeeze them by hand, they'll hold. But you put a clamp on there, leave it on there 30 seconds or a minute, and you really increase the holding power.
Yeah.
There's one that I did from a Mike Darlow book. This is it's supposed to be an apple and an apple tree. The tree got to be looking more like a Christmas tree than an apple tree, but a pretty good sized piece. Both ends, these are solid ends on this one. I didn't take the ends out of it. Then
Wow.
I've forgotten the name of the gentleman that I saw down in Philadelphia doing this. This has got 6 pieces to machine 3 or 6 triangles on your bandsaw. Turn 3 of them, and then turn those inside out and turn them again. And then do the other 3. Then you put the 6 together and turn it again. And I'm not sure I could do one again. I forget how I did it, but I'm gonna try one. I actually have blanks made that I made years ago.
Hey, Ron,
I came across them in a box the other day. So
Ron, can you hold that up in front of your face or more or less and just turn it equally? I'm just looking to see the symmetry. That's really neat.
Just
I have it.
hold there.
I have another one that I did that I tried to make a shape of a bell on the inside. And well, when you're looking at an inside out turning, the part you're making is the negative. And it's kind of upside down what you're trying to visualize. And I had trouble with it. It sort of looks like a bell. I didn't bring that one out. I have it in the living room. So then I made this one. I just made waves, innies and outies, and
That's really neat. Very interesting.
That's cool.
yeah, it's quite a process. I'm gonna make another one. I'll see if I can document the steps on it and how to do it.
I really like how when you opened up on that first one, when you opened up the end, it gave it a real floral quality. Like,
Yeah, they're like little
Very cool.
I was
flowers.
thinking the same thing, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, and
that's really
this one is, like you say, it's attached up, up in the center, not attached at the end. And I was turning these and thinking about opening the end on it, and I thought, why don't I open both ends? And so that's what I did.
Well, look,
So,
show
Ron,
us inside that end again. Show us inside the bottom, no, the other end, the other one. Yeah, those make a really nice shape. The way those four things come together.
Yeah,
That could be exploited more.
yeah.
So Ron, did you just cut off the ends, or how do you hold that in a lathe?
Well, it's in the lathe on the center, and when you're up here, of course, you can turn and just narrow it down and cut it off. Same way here, you turn this down to a very, very thin edge and then cut it off at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
You cut it off on the lathe, or you cut it off in a bandsaw or such?
No, it's turned. It's gripped in a chuck, and you come in with a parting tool just as thin as you barely, as you dare, flying off, and then just trim it off. You can trim it off with a razor knife pretty much, or a saw, and just saw off the end, hand saw.
Throwing that down to very low speed then?
Yeah, 500, 400.
Oh, okay. That's the first thing I would do, is that thing would fly across the room in 18 pieces.
So I just put a link in the chat to an Amazon page for Spectra Tape, which is, I think, what most people use for double-sided tape for turning. It's a paper tape. It's super strong hold, and like Ron said, if you put it in a vise, or you put it between centers and press it in your lathe for a minute, it won't come apart. So if you're looking for that, it's $17 at Amazon. It was a great deal.
Great, thank you, Thomas.
cool.
Okay. Doug, you back?
Yeah, I'm here. I got the stuff. If you want me to share it, I found the pictures from Tim and from Tom Wenzel. Tim.
These are mine. This is Tim Grotzinger. These are mine. 5 Christmas ornaments. The red is Paduk. The dark brown is walnut, and the white is ash. So these are just 5 I turned.
Are they hollow,
Just
Tim?
before Christmas. They're all hollow, yes.
Very nice.
What'd you do with
Very
them?
nice.
Did you give them away?
No, I still have them. I have a big tree here I made that I have probably 20 or 30 of them hanging on. This is my first attempt at an umbrella ornament, cherry and walnut.
Cool.
I really like the grain on the top. This is from the underside, so it's about 3 inches wide.
Very nice.
These are 2 wig stands that Barry, I'll get a hold of you sometime here next day or two, so we can meet somewhere. The one on the left, of course, is milk painted with yellow and soldier blue, and the one on the right is cherry.
How tall are those, Tim?
The one on the right's about 13 and a half. On the one on the left is maybe 15.
And what's the diameter on them?
Top's about 5.5 to 6 inches.
Cool.
Got a little ring tray at the bottom of the cherry.
Yes.
Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you.
Is that
And
one-
they're both finished then with poly, spray poly, so that it's somewhat waterproof.
Are they solid pieces? Oh,
No, they're the one that's on the left is 3 pieces, and the one that's on the right is 4 pieces.
okay. Yeah.
You paint that right on the lathe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure
Then
thing.
I've
Thanks,
got-
Doug.
And I've got a picture here from Tom Wenzel.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say something that I sent pictures in too, but I didn't know.
I found
I'm new to the club, and I'm new to turning. I sort of told a little bit of my story to the crew in that 6:30 to 7 session, but I'm retired from public ed, but I have a business called Vintage Blues Guitars, and I restore old guitars from pre-war, like from the 40s and older. And one of the things I needed to do was make these tiny bridge pins that hold the strings in the bridges, and they have little pearl dots in the tip. And there are guys that reproduce the more modern pins, but no one makes these old. You can see in the profile, maybe there's no little ring right under the head. So I thought I can get a little lathe. This is COVID time. I have the time. I buy a little lathe, $150. I can make these things no problem. So I started making the pins, and then my daughter asked me, she saw some of these things on Etsy. She said, "Hey, Dad, could you think you can make some of those?" I said, "Oh yeah, no sweat." So like $1,000 later, and all these lathe accoutrements and the typical thing. I've only been turning probably 3 months, maybe 4 months, maybe a little longer than that. But I just started these trees about 2 months ago because I was under the gun. I put it off. So anyway, yeah, so I just went out to my firewood pile and found some walnuts, some cherry, had some ash, and yeah, just started making different sizes. So the fun thing for me is I'm a member of Lidditz Moravian here in Lidditz, and our church has a mission gift shop. So I've been making these trees now and giving them to the director of the gift shop, and she's going to sell them in the gift shop. So it's a fun hobby. But you know, lathe turning, as you all know, is pretty addicting. At least it is to me. So
Yeah, we know about
Nah, you'd have fooled the rest of us. We're not addicted at all.
I can't stop making those. I can't stop making those guitar pins ever since I started.
you make them too?
No, absolutely not.
It took me like,
I'm sure it's addictive as hell.
it would take 3 hours to make one of these when I first started. Now I can knock them out probably in like 30 minutes. So I'm getting better.
Is that a mother of pearl in the end?
Yeah, I can buy on like eBay the little pearl dots. You can buy them in
Oh, okay. Just
millimeter,
glue 'em
4
in.
millimeter, and then I put my drill in the end part of the thing, and then I drill the hole first, and then I
Yep.
turn the profile. And I have old ones that I match to, so I just do it by eye.
Thomas, where are you located?
I'm up in Lidditz.
Oh, then you just said Moravian. You've been up to the Martin Guitar?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was going to say they have a section up there where they have some really neat
Right.
restoration
Oh, yeah.
processes. So
Some good luthier friends of mine are former employees up there, and we swap ideas and stuff a lot.
But you mean like Dick Boak?
I know Dick. Yeah, I know his wife too. She actually runs a Whitfield. I'm on our church's archive museum committee. We work with Whitfield. That's another Moravian up in Nazareth. So Dick's a great guy, and he's quite a woodworker himself. Actually, builds guitars.
Someone here in the club, I can't remember who, does some turning with abalone inlay. That might be interesting too for your luthier work.
Yes, they use abalone in a lot of more modern guitars and a lot of the more valuable guitars. Yeah, I've never used it. I just use these little pearl dots. But yeah, I heard that's nasty.
Wasn't that Mark Skinner that was doing that, Mark?
Yeah, Mark's been doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, guilty as charged.
I'll
Thanks
tell you
very
this,
much.
those Christmas trees I've done since Doug, you brought me into this addictive habit. Thank you very much. But started similarly and was making at least five per year, knowing that one would go to my wife and the other 4 would go to my 4 children.
Yeah.
At this point now, the bay window in our kitchen out in the backyard has a vast array of just amazing trees. Every one of them has to be different, which is a real challenge, actually. You got to keep them different. It's a lot of fun, though.
Yep.
Who else you got, Doug?
That's it.
Okay. I got one. I've been making a bunch of complicated parts for a fairly large project that I'll show when I get further along with it. And in between, I've been back to making magnet boxes. This is a magnet box. It has an inlay of spalted maple in the lid. The wood is cherry. No, it's a pear. And you can see the grain matches around. when it's in this position, but it actually is, it has magnets in 6 locations, so it stays closed unless you twist it. You get a little twist and it opens, and it's a jelly beans, whatever you want to keep in it, and then it just grabs shut and stays shut. So this is a box that's meant so you can pack it in your luggage and it'll stay shut. So I use it to take my vitamins when I travel. So there you go.
And John, remind us again, how do you hide the magnets?
Well, it's a 3-part blank. So when I make a blank that is three layers. There's a layer here, and there's a layer here, there's a middle layer, and there's a bottom layer.
John, can you hold that up in front of your shirt? Because it's good. There you go.
Okay, there's a top layer, a middle layer, and a bottom layer. The middle layer is when I part it out is about 1 inch thick, and I flatten all the mating surfaces. I install the magnets on both sides of the middle layer, so that allows me to I can be completely certain that they're lined up because I'm using the same layout lines right around a cylinder, a 1 inch thick disc.
Mhm.
Then I glue it back together into a blank, one big lump, and part in between the magnets. So now the magnets are embedded in here, and they're embedded in here, and there's a glue line around there someplace, and there's a glue line around there someplace on the lid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do.
Thank you.
And I'm going to demo that sometime in the spring, although I'm not quite sure when.
That's great.
Very cool.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else going to hold work up?
Mark put his hand up as well.
Go for it, Mark.
Yeah, so this is an older piece. It's one that is inlaid with abalone and Lancaster ebony, and then that's set into cherry. So it's originally 2-part hollow form.
Do you turn the abalone, or do you inlay it as flat as it can be and you're done with it?
This was set in CA. I've since switched to using acrylic, which is much easier to deal with. And you make them basically as flat as you can and set them in, and try and get them in deep enough so they're covered by the acrylic or the CA, and then you just turn that down flat.
Okay.
Yeah, abalone is nasty stuff to work with. It's like the dust is like glass shards. You want to be very careful not to inhale it.
Ouch. Ooh.
But it's pretty stuff. So
Yeah.
I have a dog over here.
Is that it from you?
That's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you find it to polish up that acrylic? What do you have to do?
With the acrylic, I just sand it up to 2000 grit and then use friction polish on it.
Okay.
So it polishes up very nicely.
Somebody else had a hand up?
Yeah, I have two inside out turnings that I made.
Oh, I like this.
Those are
They're
good.
nice.
I'm from the old school. I use paper between the joints, and these are made out of cherry.
Can you spin the one in your right hand for us, please? Yeah, great.
How long ago did you make those?
Oh, I make a couple every Christmas. I'm not sure. These were probably last year's.
But you're still working in the shop. You're still making stuff.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice. Is that it from you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've got Barry at the top of the screen. Let's start with Barry. What do you got?
Okay, just a challenge response. Everybody seemed to be putting Christmas trees. In this case, I opted for a 3-sided one and tried to make the arch inside to complement the tree or vice versa. And the tree is actually cherry that I painted. And then the ornaments on the tree are little clothing straight pins and magic marker colored heads.
Cool.
Would have expected
Good.
you to turn those, Barry.
I'm sorry.
I would have expected to have you turn those ornaments. You're letting us down here. Come on.
Oh,
Hollowed out.
Oh, he's got a jig that'll turn those
Well, I-
balls, no
I
problem.
did at first try turning little shards of epoxy, hardened epoxy that I bandsawed into little tiny pieces. And I tried ultimately just filing them. And I realized that making the shape was only getting you halfway there. You had to wind up smoothing it out and polishing it. And then I thought about going to Joann's and getting some straight pens.
That's great.
But I did have to buy a set of 61 to 80 drill bits to get the tiny drill bit diameter for drilling little, like a 1/4 inch deep holes in the tree to put the straight pin stub into it. So they are not glue held in, they are pressed into tiny holes.
Did you use a Dremel tool for that, Barry?
No, I actually used a Chinese knockoff of the Fordham tool.
Okay, same idea though. Right. Okay. Good.
Very cool. Is that it from you?
That's it.
Okay, Robert. Robert Gocknauer, was that you next? What do you got?
I got two inside out turnings. It's supposed to be a snowman.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Very cool.
can still see the finial. Hold it up by your face so we can see the finial. Cool.
Nice.
Very nice.
And then I've got a tree.
Yeah, that's neat.
Now I saw a little tag on that. Is that for sale?
Oh, everything for sale.
How much?
35 bucks. I made about 30 years ago. I made a number of these. Well, actually, I made 100 of each, and I numbered them and had the year on from 1 to 100, and for about 3 years I sold every one of them. Every year I made a different kind. But then I made a Saturn with a ring, and that was hard to do, and that didn't go. So that sort of slowed that down. So anyway, the tree, I have a sample here of what you make. If you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What I do, I make the bottom a little longer, and I glue that, and the other end goes into the chuck, and I don't bother taping. That's it.
Now, Bob, we want to see next year is to have your patented, trademarked, segmented inside.
Hey, I put that a lot of years ago.
Sell
Yeah,
that
I've run out of shapes.
Okay. Good stuff.
Okay, it's to you, Matt.
Okay. This is what I made for Christmas gifts this year. A jar lid with a honey dipper.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
And the jar lid just slips over top of a mason jar.
It doesn't screw on.
Does not, no. Last year I did ones where I would insert the ring and glue them. But with the honey dipper having to sit inside, it seemed to be a little bit of overkill for that. So this one's Paduke, and I can't remember what the wood is on this guy.
How many did you make?
A total of 6. This is another one that is Guatemalan lacewood. Zoom that in a little bit there. And then Honduran mahogany. So they were fun, little 2-part pieces. And I try to use woods that complement each other. And then I got the fancier mason jars from Wegmans.
Very nice.
Very nice.
And then one of my coworkers has a father who has beehives, so I got honey from him. So it's all sort of nice local one. That was Christmas for this year.
Do you sell them with honey in them, Matt?
No, I was just giving them away as Christmas gifts. So I give them a jar of honey, and then they can use the honey jar if they choose, or sit it on a shelf like most people do. So
I was wondering how you held the honey in there if you sold it with the honey.
I also give them a regular mason jar ring and lid, so that if they decide to use it, they can seal it off when they're done.
So that is a regular mason jar size.
Yep.
More or less.
Standard,
Cool.
like 2 3/4 inch diameter hole in the bottom.
Great.
You didn't get any comments about honeydew lists, did you?
No, that list is still very lengthy. So
Oh, okay.
What do you put on those? Walnut oil?
I use a friction polish that I use. I make a food safe friction polish using shellac that I mix up myself with walnut oil instead of boiled linseed oil. And then instead of the denatured alcohol, I'll use actually Everclear from, I go down to Maryland to buy their alcohol because they have a higher alcohol content than you can sell in PA.
Good.
You're transporting alcohol across the border, are you?
I do.
Shame.
It's kind of fun. It's like being a rum runner. So
Oh, okay.
it adds to the thrill of it. I also get my gas while I'm down there because it's cheaper.
I'm going to call the governor as soon as we're done here.
Any other inside out challenge turnings or other display items? Show and tell items. See any other hands up? So just as a reminder, next month, the challenge is repeated pattern or texture. So however you choose to interpret that in your turning. Barry, do you have the tips and tricks? I know I sent you one.
Yeah, I gotta do a screen share here.
That's the lid I just showed you. That was the Guatemalan lacewood. And the blank I have, the only jaws it fit in were my power grip jaws on my Nova Chuck. And the problem was I didn't like that it would seat too far back so that the jaws were protruding forward. I thought about using a piece of wood behind it to help push it out, but I didn't want to take the time to turn a piece that was parallel on both sides. So what I did was, okay, you can go to the next picture, the first picture you showed. There we go, that one. What I did was I took out the number 2 and number 4 jaws, and I put in my 70 millimeter jaws because they don't stick out as far, and then use those 70 millimeter jaws to actually back up the piece. So I'm using 2 jaws from one set and 2 jaws from another set. Now you can go to the next picture. The first one you showed, there we go. So there you can, oh, go back. Next one, or the one you were just on.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. You can see how I have the piece is now seated up against the 70 millimeter jaws, but still being held in place by the power grip jaws. Now, because I'm only hollowing out the inside, I knew I wasn't going to go through and I wasn't going to hit those 70 millimeter jaws, but it gave it a nice flat seat and it actually let it protrude forward. And then if you go to the last picture, you can see that's what I had drilled out with my 2 3/4 Forstner bit. And I taped around it so that I didn't accidentally snag the jaws as I was turning. It covered over any sharp corners on it. So it's a little bit, if I was doing anything other than just hollowing out the bottom, I wouldn't do it this way. But it was a nice way to push the piece out of the jaws without having to rig up any other extra pieces behind it or worry about anything like that. So
Smart idea.
That's my tip and trick. And there you can see the lacewood, and that has my homebrew fiction polish on it.
Nice. It's a nice polish.
Yeah, it really works out well.
Did you say they're Nova Chucks? It's
Yes,
an Nova jaw?
Nova jaws.
No, Nova has a set of jaws that are that diameter that are shallower, don't they? I think I've got a set that's not quite so deep as that one
Yes, they
as
do.
well.
I just didn't know
Yeah.
them.
Okay, it's a good idea, but I was just thinking, hold on a second, I got some shallower jaws for holding that sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, good idea.
This is also a good method, two-jaw method to hold a rectangular piece that you want to put a circle through. You know, you want to like those old. If you look at those old German ornaments that are sort of teardropped on both ends, and then they have a semi-sphere drilled out of both sides. You can use the same sheet with just using two jaws instead of four to hold that, what is essentially at the beginning a rectangular piece. Hollow out the two semi-spheres on both sides of the ornament and then put it in the other orientation between centers and create that sort of double teardrop shape.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is there any other comment on Matt's for metal?
I'd love to know, Matt, I'd love to have you do a demo, Matt, and show everyone how you make your friction paste.
That's actually, I do have that scheduled. I'm going to do a food safe finish demo along with the other waxes I use. I think Ben has me scheduled for May, but we're shuffling things around with COVID. So that'll be later this year. Hopefully with samples too. So
In 16-ounce jars?
maybe not that big. I can't afford that much Everclear.
Okay, our next submittal came from Mike Brazo.
Yeah, hi. I haven't been turning much lately. I got arthritis in my left hand, so I thought I'd throw this in. But the one thing my 20 and a bit years of born again turning that I regretted was not buying a bigger bandsaw at the beginning. So I've got a 14-inch import with a riser block, but I live in the country and I have a chainsaw, so I've processed a lot of wood. Instead of making an outfeed table, one day I came up with this idea. I'd had this piece of wood for about 35 years. It came from a store cabinet my brother-in-law had some nice arborite on it. So I put a slot in it on the table saw and a couple of catches in the front there, right dead center at the lower portion to go up against the cast iron table. And I just fasten it to the table, to the cast iron table with a piece of 2x2 with a couple of notches for the underneath. There's some reinforcing in the casting. Maybe go to the next slide there, Barry.
I only received one from you.
I sent another one, but I guess it didn't get to you in time.
I didn't.
Anyway, I did a close up on. It's really just fastened with a couple of deck screws in each front corner there. So about a 2-inch deck screw that goes down and engages, and I use some construction spruce piece of 2x2. So I can take the thing off. You can see some lines I've got on the left-hand side. So if I take a small log section, split it in half with a chainsaw, that I got a flat surface to work on here. And once I've got another flat surface, I can just guesstimate the thickness. So I've built up, I call it my nursing home wood. I've got boxes and boxes of spindle blanks, good for tool handles. And you can only make so many tool handles. I've got lots of peppermill blanks and ornament blanks, whatever you need. But it's proven to be very useful for me. It's about 15 inches wide and 30 inches deep. So it'll handle, a log section quite handily. With a fresh blade on a 14-inch saw, you're limited there, but that's it.
So it extends pretty far out the back of the saw.
Yeah, it goes out, probably doubles the width of a table on a 14-inch bandsaw.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can handle the wood and it supports it. You don't have to fight with the wood. And with the arborite, this was I lucked out on that. That piece followed me through 2 houses. So Bob gave me a whole bunch of wood once.
You say arborite, we say formica.
Yeah, formica. Yeah, I don't. I guess you can still buy the stuff. I remember making little kids table set and that when my kids were young. They're 50 now, so you know how long ago it was.
Good job.
Great idea.
Nice idea.
Michael, are you Canadian?
Yes,
Any other
oh yeah.
comment on Mike's? Yeah, the final thing is just, and this is just a reminder for me that what I wanted to talk about. I frequently wear long sleeve waffle knit or waffle pattern kind of shirts in my shop, and they shaving, whether it be from the saw or the lathe, really stick to that fabric, and a dust brush won't take them off. And so this is just it's just an example of microfiber. I happened to drag one across my shirt, and it lifted every piece of sawdust off. And if you like hold it by the end and just spank your shirt with it, it takes everything off. And even after the rag itself is clogged with wood, it just keeps on snagging wood chips. And I discovered that feature when I tried to wipe down a piece of wood before putting finish on it. And if you rub across the grain, it goes nice. If you go along the grain, it snags on every tiny fiber. So that inspired me to try it. And just want to pass along any microfiber fabric you buy that'll really clean your shop clothing off. And that's it for tips and tricks.
Hey, can I add something?
Sure.
Couple of quick things. Number one, our good friends at Habitat Restore on Independence Court here in Lancaster. So I'm sorry to our friends north of the border or otherwise. They have new gallons of Anchor Seal 2 for $10 per gallon.
Wow.
And we did a random check, popped open some, because it is water-based, wanted to make sure. It's one thing that they do there is anything that comes in that's latex or water-based, they check to make sure that it's never gone through a freeze cycle. And it's all perfect. It's brand new stuff. It was just hardware store stopped carrying it. And it's just not a bad idea. I also have found, as of late, a number of rattle can satin and gloss, high gloss lacquer cans. And they extort you for $2 per can for those. So if you happen to have one of those around you, take a look at it and peek in and see what you might find. But for those local, if you need some Anchor Seal, it's a good deal for that.
Is that the
Thank
place?
you, Mike.
Is that the place that's just south off Route 30?
Correct. Right off Greenfield Road, back in your K&A and
Yeah.
exactly right. Another thing,
Mike,
Yeah,
sorry, Mike. Have they started holding regular hours, or that still sort of with the COVID, they've been really on and off as far as their hours are concerned because employees.
for about 3 weeks now, they've been back to standard. They're
Okay,
really-
thank you.
They do ask you to wear a mask in, which is never a problem there.
No.
So they're pretty good. Another thing, on Tuesday, I took Monday and Tuesday off last week. And on Tuesday, I ran up to Woodcraft to get some Abernet and a few other odds and ends. And there was a young gentleman there, I want to say late 20s, early 30s. He was there with a couple of buddies. And he was buying a lathe, and he was kind of, maybe it was a Christmas present, but he was spending, I think he ended up spending in just the accessories about $500. And what he was doing was what a lot of newbies do, and that is buying one of Woodcraft's mid-range multiple tool sets, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of pulled him aside. I didn't criticize him for what he was doing, but I mentioned to him that he should really consider finding out about the clubs that we have in the area and talk to him a little bit about that. He was confusing that with the lessons that they might give there at Woodcraft. I mentioned, no, I said, you have, I said, where do you live? He said, well, mentioned down toward Hershey. I said, well, whether it's Lancaster up here or down in New York, you've got clubs where you have members that would absolutely be thrilled to talk to you and help you understand, et cetera, et cetera. Here, the reason I'm bringing this up is I'll certainly put it together. I'll offer to get them made up. But if Woodcraft would allow us, I think it would be very helpful to put a joint brochure together that talks about the clubs that are available to these folks and the resources. And to just say, hey, come to one of our meetings or look up each of our, all of our websites to look in the kind of resources that are available. Because, you'd love to encourage these kids to really get into this. And you all know what it's like when you get in, you've got a dull. I asked him about what sharpening equipment he was going to get. The first thing he looks at me and he looks at the tools, he says, "Aren't they sharp?" Oh man, So I encouraged him, and I wrote down both websites for both clubs, Susquehanna and Lancaster. And I just thought, it'd be nice whether it was a business card that Woodcraft would have on a rack up there on the counter, or throw together a 3-panel brochure, you name it. Certainly would welcome any thoughts about that, guy, so that the tips.
Which Woodcraft were you at?
Harrisburg. We could even go down to Downingtown and do the same thing.
Mike,
Newcastle.
Like, would you guess how old is this guy?
I want to say he was in his late 20s, early 30s.
You don't see that many people that young get involved in wood turning. You need to encourage these kind of people.
I was really encouraged, and that's why I would say, hey, let's get him to do the right thing. And
that's actually a task I'd given myself, was to start to put together a brochure or a flyer. So as I'm working on that, I haven't started yet, but that's a good reminder to give me the push to do it. I'll loop you in and see what you think of the content, and we can put together something. Maybe we do postcards, or maybe do something like that we can post around.
To include both clubs, because a number of us here are members of both clubs, and certainly if we're going to put it up into, maybe even Thomas, you could work with us where we could put together one that has 3 clubs, and we could drop them off in Downingtown and drop them off in Harrisburg. And just
one of our club members used to teach at the Downingtown shop, so they have a good relationship. I'm sure that they'd be willing to do that, for sure. I mean, it's in their best interest. I personally struggle with it because Woodcraft is so darned expensive for stuff you can find inexpensively elsewhere. I like the opportunity to go and window shop there, but I find that they charge more than they need to charge, and I'm like you. I do everything I can do as cheaply as possible, and I don't like to lead people on to, you know what I mean? There's a quid pro quo there that would be expected, and I don't know that I have it in me to suggest people shop at Woodcraft, but they're nice people.
Susquehanna's meetings are in the Woodcraft store.
Oh yeah. So yeah, and that's like Lehigh's is in the Woodcraft. They make themselves available. So I mean, they do good things for wood turning, and it's equally beneficial. It's just especially for young people starting out.
Well, as he was walking out, I kind of strolled around a little bit and wasted my time because I already checked out. And I walked out with the 3 of them out to their truck, which was close to mine. And I said, I'll tell you, when you come to the meetings, you're going to find a high preponderance of retired engineers or those who enjoy making their own tools. And that's why, I didn't want to certainly wasn't going to discourage them from buying the tools in the store. But say, look, there's a lot of stuff that you can find. Yes, you can go out to YouTube, and that's all well and good. But when you could sit there and talk to somebody and, ask them what smoke wood is, and they could really tell you what that is, invaluable. So
it's a type of wood, Mike.
American smoke tree, but it's this. Everybody knows it's this.
It's this.
Yeah. Susquehanna Woodturners has a trifold brochure that we leave on the counter.
Oh, is that right? I didn't see anything up there, Randy. I guess maybe it's something.
Right on the front of the counter where you check out. There's probably 40 or 50 of them, and we take them also into the farm show and hand them out to anyone interested. We usually hand out about 200 to 300 of those.
Well, I know that it might not always be an easy thing to ask. And there was a Mike up there, and there was is there an Eric at Woodcraft?
Mm-hmm.
To say, hey, if these guys are, they're in there asking questions about all of this stuff, it would be terrific if these guys would push those brochures and at least suggest that the resources like our clubs are available to these guys.
Yeah, I've told people at different times. I sometimes read through the Wood Turning Connection on Facebook, and I often tell people nothing beats standing beside somebody who knows what they're doing and watching them and getting advice.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Are you claiming that we all know what we're doing, Randy?
I never claimed that on myself.
I thought it was required that you had 2.5 feet of shavings under your feet when you turned. When Doug first showed me how to turn in his.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how to clean up. That's my problem.
Well, Matthew, we could talk about that from our neck of the woods, maybe into Downingtown or something if it's already up there. But I just think encouraging these guys and somehow getting out there somewhat. As we do the website, we talk about trying to get, more folks to get their attention in. We can crossbreed a little bit between the socials and maybe the hard copy, something or other.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.